The Wholeness Network. Awaken to the reality of wholeness.
Eben Alexander, New York Times bestselling author of Proof of Heaven, and Newell, co-founder of Sacred Acoustics, have joined forces in writing Living in a Mindful Universe, which looks at spirituality and science and how we are all connected through the binding force of unconditional love and its unlimited power to heal. So tell us a little bit about how this book came about.
Well, this is very much about a journey of discovery about the nature of reality and consciousness. So just having an NDE basically just wakes you up, but it doesn't answer all the questions at all. In fact, it generates a tremendous new range of questions. And this is, a decade out from my near-death experience. I'm working in collaboration with scientists around the world on the nature of consciousness and the kind of extraordinary shift that's coming to the scientific world. And Living in a Mindful Universe is the effort that Karen and I made to try and bring some of this profound, deep science and shift in the scientific perspective to the world, but also it's written for the individual journeyer. So a huge part of it, and much of this I'm grateful to Karen for providing, is a tremendous amount of practical guidance and tools for people to live their lives based on these lessons. So Living in a Mindful Universe is really two major parts, showing that gigantic scientific revolution that's going to change this world without doubt to a more peaceful, loving, harmonious world than the one we currently live in, but also with a tremendous focus on tools for the individual, sacred acoustics, differential sound frequency for going deep into transcendental states of conscious awareness, and learning to live from the heart and to live the life that we came here to lead. And that is, I would say, Karen has been a tremendous source of wisdom and knowing to me about the role of the heart and heart consciousness. And so it really was something we had to do together.
How is that in the 10 years, how has the reception changed? Has there been a change?
The whole world is shifting.
Okay.
The world is shifting very dramatically. The scientific world is, of course, my world. That's what I'm used to. And I realize that even in the last year and 2 and 3, there's been tremendous progress compared to prior years in terms of understanding all this. And a lot of that is covered in detail in Living in a Mindful Universe, where we talk about the scientific models of consciousness, filter theory of the brain, the metaphysical idealism, which is the notion that the entire universe is mental. That comes out of the world of quantum physics. And that has a tremendous amount to do with understanding where this is all going for all of us. And so that's why I think Living in a Mindful Universe is such an important book for our times. But it is kind of a snapshot of where the world is now. And because it is so advanced in blending science and spirituality, it really points to where we're headed over the next few decades.
So what's your opinion as to why there's a change in the consciousness? What's bringing that about?
Well, I think a lot of people are awakening. Karen's a perfect example of somebody who didn't need to have a near-death experience at all, but has grown into tremendous wisdom through a prescribed lifetime of very passionate, conscientious attack on the questions of life. Why are we here? What is our purpose? What is the meaning of all this? And where is it headed? And I think that these questions have not been very well addressed previously, and certainly bringing science and spirituality together is crucial for answering those questions in a very robust fashion.
Do you think it's important to know where we are going, or is it more about where we just are right now?
Oh, I think knowing where we're headed is crucial. If you just look at where we are right now, it appears very confusing. Although I will say, in very strong terms, there are literally hundreds of scientists around the world who realize the truth of this book, Living in a Mindful Universe, and where it indicates we are headed over the next few decades.
Wow.
What we're really trying to do, though, is empower the individual. You know, me personally, I'm not really interested in what scientists tell me how the world works.
You're an art person.
Well, because they're just they have their ways,
Right.
and often what they say is true doesn't fit in my own life. So the idea, and scientists have a very wide range of opinions. And it surprised me. I didn't pay a lot of attention to science until I met Eben and we started working on this book together especially. But what I learned is the scientists don't even agree on some of their theories.
Right.
And what happens is lay people start to believe scientific theories are actually fact. And so this idea that the material world is all that exists is a very common sort of, this is the scientific truth, forget
Right.
about religion and anything spiritual, it's all just an illusion. But what I found out from knowing Eben is that the main kind of supporting concept for that argument that the material world is all that exists is that consciousness somehow arises from the brain, that we're born into these bodies and then somehow we become conscious. But the opposite of that is that we're conscious
Right.
eternally and we find our way into bodies to have these experiences. That's the direct opposite of what scientists will tell you. And that, the idea that we, consciousness, that's us, is really contributing to our unfolding reality, I feel is very worthy of study and understanding instead of just outright dismissal. And so this is what we hope this book will do, because Eben has done a beautiful job of explaining a scientific foundation for how this really could work. It's not just new age, you know, woo-woo kind of stuff. That's how I come off. That's how I come off. But he has this amazing scientific foundation that really pulls all of this together in ways that people who are, you know, more secular or believe in science as a pathway to truth, they will find that that is in this book in spades, because we cover that scientific foundation in any woo-woo kind of topic we bring up.
Woo-woo is the new right on.
I'll say, I used to say, what's wrong with woo-woo? Right?
We say we're trying to just move up to woo, and then we'll go.
Yeah, and not,
Woo
and
squared.
Yeah, we'll get rid of the woo-woo and just
not
woo
to
for a minute.
not to intimidate people into thinking, oh my gosh, that's just too
Right.
strange.
No.
All it really is realizing that there's something inside of you that is watching everything. So you can call it the observer
Right.
within. And when you can get your mind quiet, whether through some meditative practice or with the sacred acoustic sounds that we create, which helps a lot of people get their minds quiet, when you can get your mind quiet and away from those worries, anxieties, and plans and arguments that you've had, there's something else going on
Right.
deep inside. And it really is a personal responsibility for each and every one of us to understand how our inner psyche works. We're all unique, but we're all contributing to this whole. We don't understand how the mechanism quite works yet, but neither do the materialists understand how the brain creates consciousness. So we're kind of at a tie right now.
Right.
Nobody's ahead of the other person. And certainly the brain activity, as Eben would tell you, correlates with certain activity, but it doesn't necessarily cause certain
Right.
activity. So if a certain neuron flashes in the mind and suddenly you're in love, you know, a materialist science would tell you, oh, that's just pheromones and this and that. But what if it's your spirit that's in love and then the brain reacts
Right.
with those particular pheromones? It's just flips everything.
Right, correct.
Well, one of the things that Michelle's done that I love is she's created a class about the four bodies, the physical, the emotional, the spiritual, the mental. And to only focus on two things, the physical and the mental, really ignores half of who we are. And so this integration, that's why we love these discussions and what you're sharing. Really, that integration of it is the mind, it is the body, but it is the spirit and it is the emotion. That is the wholeness of who we are. We have to really look at all
and that's
aspects.
another way to bring in that masculine feminine polarity,
Yes.
because physical and mental are masculine. Those are, we talk, we see our bodies, but emotions are a little more mysterious, and spiritual is even more mysterious. But by ignoring them, we're just living in masculine energy.
Right.
We're completely out of balance.
Yep.
So good. That you guys are both doing amazing things.
Thank
That's
you.
wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we appreciate your time, and we appreciate this book, and that we are all in trying to get the consciousness of the world to entrain to love.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Well, that I think is probably the deepest truth that's coming out of all this. And from what Karen said a few minutes ago, important to point out that the materialist model, that brain creates consciousness, all that exists is physical world, has never even gotten out of the starting blocks when it comes to consciousness. And so it's not as if the materialists are even with the idealists. Right now, much more of the scientific effort is realizing that materialism should have died off 80 years ago with the advent of quantum physics.
Yeah.
And it's only in trying to get to a deeper understanding of properties like contextuality, which is the fact that the mind of the scientist doing the quantum experiment has a very deep, powerful effect on the outcome of the experiment. You cannot pretend that it's all some cold mechanistic system going by the laws of statistics. It's very heavily driven by mind. In fact, placebo effect, something that's been in medicine for more than 50 or 60 years, and it's actually been around thousands of years, but placebo effect is a perfect example of mind over matter. And that's where our book and a lot of the modern science is going on this, is realizing that consciousness is fundamental. And what it really does is returns free will to the human soul in determining our course in life. And I think it's a beautiful gift to acknowledge the idealistic nature of the universe. And that, as you all have been hinting at and discussing, it's really all about love. That is the binding force that brings us all together. That's what near-death experiencers witness in this very powerful empirical process that's independent of your prior beliefs, of your religious systems, of your nationality, what continent you live on, what millennium you live in. And this is really about returning that power, the free will of human spirit, to humanity. And each and every individual can come to harvest that through the kind of lessons that we discuss in Living in a Mindful Universe.
Not just come to harvest it, but be responsible for harvesting it.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We'd also just like to mention on ebenalexander.com, you can go there and you'll find a free email course, a 33-day email course that includes major concepts from the book and also samples of the sound files that we're talking about. Thousands of people from all over the world have already taken it, and they're leaving comments and helping each other with tips, and it's just a beautiful kind of online community that's come together.
Good, great.
So people just go to ebenalexander.com, and it's your 33-day journey into the heart of consciousness. Click, and there you are. You're already running on it. So
Excellent.
And is there one thing that you would want to share? You've got a chapter on prayer. I would just like to know if there's one or two thoughts you'd like to leave on that.
I think the most important thing to state is when we realize, and the scientific model fully supports this, that we're really sharing one consciousness. We're all part of one mind. So to hurt another is to hurt myself. That's why near-death experiencers come back completely, no matter what their background, realizing we are all bound together through love, mercy, compassion, and that the power of prayer has, tremendous impact on how we live our lives, because prayer is going within. And when you realize that your mind is not created within the physical brain in the confines of your skull, but in fact the brain is only acting as a reducing valve or filter that limits this universal primordial mind, consciousness, the God force of pure love, and that the brain just serves to allow that to express in our human consciousness, but we can transcend that veil, and we can enter that primordial mind and that kind of collective consciousness, and that's where we can get so much more done. And that is what connects us all together. In fact, I would say our definition of spirituality really just has two main ingredients to it. One is that we are all part of one mind, that we're all in this together, that non-local consciousness, telepathy, precognition, all these things are very real phenomena, and that there is also meaning and purpose. We are here for a reason, and that's to grow towards that oneness with the divine. And I think, for me, that definition of spirituality, encompassing those two very simple concepts, goes a long way, and that's something we expand on a lot in Living in a Mindful Universe.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you all for having
It's
us.
been amazing.
We appreciate it.
It's wonderful.
Thank you for listening. Join the community of knowledge and growth at thewholenessnetwork.com.